Welcome to the Universal Tech Units podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're taking a deep dive into something that's definitely been sparking a lot of conversation in the tech world, Chrome OS Flex. Now, you've probably heard of Chromebooks, right? Those, lightweight, fast, often pretty budget-friendly laptops.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
But what if you could take almost any old PC or Mac, maybe one that's just gathering dust in a closet somewhere, and actually transform it into one of these modern cloud-first machines?
That's the core idea, yeah. That's the compelling promise of Chrome OS Flex.
Exactly. And it's fascinating because it seems to have gathered, well, both really passionate advocates and some pretty vocal critics.
Oh, definitely. There are strong opinions on both sides.
So our mission today is really to sift through all that the real-world experiences people are having, the technical details, the tricky bits, and the bigger picture implications of this, well, pretty unique operating system.
Right.
We want to help you, our listener, truly understand if it's maybe the right fit for your tech life or, perhaps a viable second act for some of that aging hardware you might have lying around.
Indeed. In this deep dive, we're going to meticulously explore what Chrome OS Flex truly is. We'll get into its reported benefits for reviving older hardware. That's a big one.
Huge.
We'll dissect the nuances of how you actually install it, which isn't always straightforward.
Right.
And crucially, examine the practical realities of using it day to day. What's it really like?
Yeah, the pros and the cons.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how it profoundly challenges our kind of traditional notions of what a computer operating system can be or even should be. It's pushing the boundaries of what's possible with existing hardware, stuff we might have written off. It's really about efficiency, longevity, and maybe rethinking obsolescence itself.
Rethinking obsolescence. I like that. So let's really unpack this then. What exactly is Chrome OS Flex at its core? And how does it relate to the Chrome OS we already know from, actual Chromebooks?
Okay, so at its essence, Chrome OS Flex is a free-to-download and install version of Google's desktop operating system.
Free is good.
Free is definitely good, and it's meticulously designed to be deployed on existing Windows PCs and Macs. Basically, it lets you refresh and repurpose older devices by turning them into what Google calls cloud-first machines.
Cloud first. Okay, what does that mean in practice?
So the foundational philosophy behind it, much like its parent, the original Chrome OS, is, well, it's strikingly simple but quite impactful. This cloud-first approach means the OS is intrinsically linked to internet services.
Right.
Your applications primarily run within the web browser or as web-based services. Your files, your settings, pretty much your entire digital life is designed to live primarily in the cloud rather than just on your local hard drive.
And it really doubles down on that core philosophy of Chrome OS itself, doesn't it? The idea that for so many of us, our computer is essentially just maybe a very powerful and secure way to access the internet.
That's the core bet Google made, yes.
But I wonder, does that web-first approach ever feel too limiting for users? For people who might occasionally need something beyond just a browser, what are the implications of building everything around that idea?
That's a key point, and it really cuts to the heart of Chrome OS Flex's design and its limitations, too, frankly.
Okay.
The original Chrome OS was built entirely around the Google Chrome web browser. The fundamental idea, just like you said, is that for many users, maybe most users, like students, casual home users, even certain business folks, their computer primarily serves as a gateway to the internet.
Yeah, thinking about my own use, browsing, email, docs. It's mostly browser-based.
Exactly. Whether it's browsing, social media, streaming, collaborating on documents, basic productivity, the web browser is often the main application running. So Google's thought was, let's streamline this. Let's make the browser the operating system. Let's eliminate what they perceive as bloat from traditional OCs like Windows or Mac OS.
Bloat, like all those background processes and stuff?
Precisely. All those background processes, excessive disk activity, complex system services, maybe bulky graphical interfaces that consume significant system resources even when you're not doing much.
Right.
By stripping all that away, Chrome OS Flex becomes inherently reliant on web apps. It completely shifts the paradigm of how we interact with software and what we expect from a PC. It prioritizes speed, security, and simplicity over, the vast, often unused functionality of conventional operating systems.
So the vision is pure simplicity then, getting rid of all the extra layers, just focusing on that web-centric experience, making it super lightweight and accessible, especially for older hardware.
Absolutely. The Dryden vision is pure simplicity coupled with making it work on a really wide range of hardware. It aims to be incredibly lightweight and, just as importantly, inherently low maintenance. Think about an OS specifically designed to run efficiently on budget laptops or older machines.
Yeah, the ones with like Celerons and 4 gigs of RAM.
Exactly. Maybe an old Intel Celeron, maybe an older Core i3, maybe just 4 GB of RAM, sometimes even as little as 16 GB of internal flash storage.
Wow, 16 GB is tiny these days.
It is. And those are exactly the kinds of machines that would typically struggle immensely or just be unusable with modern Windows or Mac OS. They'd choke on background tasks, constant updates.
Oh yeah, the update pain.
Flex is engineered to really squeeze the most performance out of those humble specs.
And what does low maintenance truly mean in practice for a user? Because honestly, that sounds like a dream for anyone who's ever battled an intrusive Windows update or a confusing driver issue. It sounds like an OS that just gets out of your way.
It really does try to, and that's a huge part of its appeal. For a typical user, low maintenance translates into a remarkably hassle-free computing experience.
How so?
Well, it means automatic background updates that are almost imperceptible, certainly not as intrusive or disruptive as, say, those infamous Windows updates that always seem to pop up at the worst possible time.
Tell me about it. Needing restarts, long installs.
Right. You're not prompted to constantly reboot or wait for those frustratingly long update cycles. And because almost everything is a web app, Google Docs, Spotify, your email, your applications themselves don't need separate manual updates either.
Ah, because they update on the web server side.
Exactly. They update automatically whenever you access the web service. You're always running the latest version without even thinking about it.
Okay.
This makes it an ideal, really hands-off solution for, say, non-technical users. Think about making an old computer viable and easy for a grandparent who just wants to check Facebook, send emails, maybe write a Google Doc, without needing constant tech support.
Yeah, the set it and forget it dream.
It really is for basic computing needs. It frees users from those digital chores that often come with traditional operating systems.
Okay, so that simplicity and low maintenance is compelling. But one of the biggest selling points we've seen, and honestly one of the most persuasive, is its ability to revive older computers.
What?
Why is this such a strong draw? It feels like it taps into something deeper than just needing a new laptop, doesn't it? It almost feels like, I don't know, a sustainability statement.
It absolutely taps into a much broader societal issue and a fundamental question about our consumption habits and, yeah, the ever-growing problem of electronic waste.
E-waste is massive.
It's huge. We live in an age where there's this constant, often relentless push to buy the newest tech. It's fueled by marketing, often by software demand.
Planned obsolescence, some might say.
Some might indeed. And this habit frequently leads to perfectly usable older devices being discarded. Why? Because they're perceived as obsolete, or they're frustratingly slow under the weight of modern OZs, or they just don't get official software support anymore.
Right.
Chrome OS Flex directly addresses this by offering a viable, highly effective, and again, free way to upcycle.
Upcycle, nice term.
Many users have reported that their, say, decade-old Windows laptops machines that were once laggy, frustrating messes, the kind you'd seriously consider throwing out.
We've all got one of those somewhere.
They become surprisingly spry and responsive with Flex installed. It allows them to extend the device's useful life by several years, preventing them from ending up in a landfill.
That's amazing.
It's not just about raw speed either. It's about making the computer pleasant to use again. That's often the biggest factor in why people discard older tech. It just becomes too annoying.
I remember reading about one user's experience. I think it was a Samsung Ultrabook from maybe 2013. And they said it had this debilitating 30-second delay between typing and seeing the letters appear.
Wow, 30 seconds?
Yeah, that's not just slow, that's utterly unusable. So to go from that to a genuinely functional machine, that's quite a transformation. What's actually happening under the hood with Chrome OS Flex that allows for such a dramatic turnaround on hardware that seems, well, completely obsolete?
That anecdote perfectly illustrates the potential impact. It's not just that Chrome OS Flex is lighter, though it's fundamentally designed to minimize those resource-hogging background processes and constant disk I/O.
Disk I/O, like reading and writing to the hard drive all the time.
Exactly. That's where traditional OCs like Windows, even when they're just sitting idle, can consume significant resources, especially on older hardware. Think about those early 2010s laptops that came with those slower spinning hard drives HDDs instead of the faster SSDs we have now.
Oh yeah, booting took forever.
Forever. And Windows updates on those machines could literally be an all-day affair. Just opening a few browser tabs would bring them to a crawl because the hard drive was constantly churning, trying to keep up.
Painful memories.
Chrome OS Flex, being cloud-first and relying heavily on RAM for operations rather than constant disk writes and reads, it bypasses many of those bottlenecks. It's like taking a car stuck in deep mud and suddenly putting it on a smooth, paved road.
Nice analogy.
Users report that machines that once took minutes to boot now start in seconds. Apps that lagged can suddenly run with surprising fluidity. This dramatic improvement in responsiveness is a primary motivator for many. It genuinely transforms what was essentially digital e-waste into a functional, useful computer again.
It's like unlocking hidden potential.
Exactly. Unlocking latent potential in hardware that still has life left in it, but was simply bogged down by more demanding operating systems.
Okay, so beyond raw performance and extending hardware life, there's also this clear appeal for people already living deep in Google's cloud ecosystem. So what does Flex mean for someone who's already, all in on a Pixel phone, Google Drive, Google Workspace for everything?
Ah, yes. If you're someone who uses a Pixel phone, relies heavily on Google Drive for cloud storage, or extensively uses Google Workspace apps like Docs, Sheets, Slides for productivity, then Chrome OS Flex offers an incredibly seamless and intuitive extension of that whole environment.
How so? More seamless than just using Chrome on Windows.
Well, the integration of Google Drive, for instance, isn't just a tacked-on app. It's deeply woven into the OS's file system. It appears like a native drive.
Okay.
This eliminates the kind of sometimes intrusive syncing behaviors or constant notifications some users experience with other cloud services, like maybe OneDrive in Windows 11, where it can feel like an afterthought.
Right, less nagging.
Less nagging. And the entire system is built around web apps, making it an incredibly natural fit for someone whose work and personal life already revolve around Google services. Your workflow just naturally transitions because the core platform is consistent.
This sounds like it creates a very cohesive digital experience, almost like everything flows together effortlessly between all your devices, kind of blurring the lines between them. What are some standout examples of that cohesion in daily use? Can you give us a scenario where that flow really shines, or maybe where it still hits a snag?
It does create that cohesion, and that's a huge advantage for the target user.
Mm-hmm.
Having 2 or more Chrome OS Flex devices, or even combining them with Android phones and tablets, creates a truly robust and interconnected personal ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's cloud-based and constantly synced, you get this level of continuity that's really beneficial. Imagine you're writing a report in Google Docs on your Flex laptop and their desk.
Why?
Then you have to run out for an appointment. You can just pick up your Android phone or another Flex device, open Google Docs, and literally continue typing exactly where you left off.
Instantly.
Pretty much instantly, yeah. Because the document is always saved and synced in the cloud. This capability effectively gives you what one user described as permanently cloned laptop.
Permanently cloned laptops. I like that.
Your work environment, your open tabs, your files, even your custom settings are consistent and accessible from anywhere with an internet connection.
That's powerful. What's the snag, though? You mentioned a snag.
The main snag, of course, is that deep reliance on Google itself and the internet connection. If Google's services happen to go down, which is rare but possible,
Right.
or if you're in an area with no internet access, your functionality becomes significantly limited. Most of your applications require that online connection to work fully. Offline modes exist for some things, like Docs, but it's not the default.
So it really is designed for those who have fully embraced or are perhaps, as you hinted earlier, a little trapped within the Google way of computing.
Exactly. The experience is truly maximized when you leverage the full breadth of Google's offerings. Drive for storage, calendar for schedule, contacts, sheets, photos, all of it. These services aren't just compatible, they're deeply embedded. They perform exceptionally well within the OS, making it feel like a natural extension of your existing digital habits. If you're coming from, say, a heavily Apple-integrated world or you mostly use Microsoft services, the learning curve and the shift in thinking will be more pronounced.
Okay, that seamless integration is great for personal productivity. But the story of Chrome OS Flex, as you mentioned, extends way beyond individual convenience. It taps into one of the biggest challenges facing us today, that huge mountain of electronic waste. This is where Flex moves from just a personal tech solution to something with potentially global implications.
You've hit on a crucial point there, and the numbers behind e-waste are, frankly, quite stark. The volume is enormous and growing alarmingly fast. Estimates suggest a staggering 62 million tons of electronic waste were generated globally in just 2022 alone.
62 million tons. It's hard to even picture that.
It is. To put it in perspective, that's roughly equivalent to the weight of, say, 168 Empire State Buildings being discarded in a single year.
Wow.
It's a colossal environmental burden. It's full of hazardous materials that can leach into the ground, contribute to air pollution if not managed properly. By directly extending the life of existing devices, Chrome OS Flex actively combats this. Google itself claims that converting just 10,000 devices to Flex can prevent 50,000 pounds of e-waste from hitting landfills.
50,000 pounds from just 10,000 devices.
Yeah. And beyond waste, it significantly cuts CO2 emissions associated with manufacturing new electronics. It saves a considerable amount of energy used in production.
And the mining for materials, too, I imagine.
Absolutely. It reduces the demand for raw material extraction, which often involves environmentally damaging practices like open pit mining and, regrettably, can sometimes be linked to labor exploitation in parts of the global supply chain.
So it's not just about saving money for an individual or a business, which is great, but also making a tangible, positive environmental and social impact. We saw that example, Breakmasters, a business reporting they saved $80,000 by converting 78 PCs to Flex, extending their life by 5 years.
Exactly. That's a powerful testament.
It really makes you wonder how many forgotten laptops are sitting in closets right now just waiting for that second chance. It's almost like a digital adoption agency.
I like that, digital adoption agency. It genuinely represents a win-win scenario across multiple dimensions. Individuals, families, businesses can save significant costs by not buying new hardware every few years. They turn depreciated assets back into functional tools.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, this practice directly contributes to reducing that vast volume of hazardous e-waste. It lessens the demand for new mining, manufacturing, all the environmental and social costs tied to that. It's a holistic benefit.
Yeah.
Economic, environmental, even social responsibility by making computing more accessible without generating new waste. It's a compelling argument for extending device life cycles.
Okay, so we've laid out the compelling why behind Chrome OS Flex, the simplicity, the revival of old tech, the environmental angle. The next logical step for many listening might be, okay, how do I actually get this on my machine? And that process you mentioned isn't quite like installing Windows or Linux, right? It's not just downloading an ISO file.
That's right. It's a bit different. And this is where Google has its own specific sort of curated method. Instead of a traditional ISO file, you download and burn with third-party tools.
Like Rufus or Balena Etcher.
Exactly. Instead of that, Google provides its own dedicated pathway, designed for simplicity and reliability. For Windows and macOS users, the most common way is to download Chrome's special Chromebook Recovery Tool extension.
An extension for the Chrome browser itself.
Yep, directly within the Chrome browser. From inside this extension, you navigate a simple list, you select Chrome OS Flex, and then the tool guides you through creating the bootable USB installer. It automates the whole process, makes it pretty user-friendly.
Okay, so that handles Windows and Mac users. But what about Linux users? We heard it was tricky for them initially, that the recovery tool wasn't available, which seemed like a weird oversight.
That's correct. Initially, the recovery tool didn't officially support Linux, which was, a point of frustration for many in the Linux community who might otherwise be drawn to Flex for its lightweight nature.
But that's changed now.
It has, thankfully. A significant and welcome update now allows Linux users to directly download a .bin file.
A .bin file? What's that?
It's essentially the raw disk image for Chrome OS Flex. Think of it as a complete byte-for-byte copy of the operating system, ready to be written directly to a drive.
Okay.
Once you download this .bin file, it's about 6 GB, You can easily flash it to a USB drive using common, well-known open source tools, like Balena Etcher, which you mentioned, that's a popular graphical tool.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to use.
Or for command line folks, the trusty ED utility works perfectly fine. This makes it much more accessible for the Linux community, aligning with how they usually create bootable media.
Right, using the tools they know, and 6 GB file size, so you need at least an 8 GB USB stick.
Definitely. An HEB drive or larger is a must.
Okay, so it sounds straightforward enough once you have the right tool or method. But are there any crucial steps or things to consider before diving in and actually committing to the installation? Because, wiping your drive is a pretty big step.
Definitely. There are a couple of absolutely paramount preparations that cannot be stressed enough no matter what OS you're currently running.
Okay, what are they?
First, and most importantly, back up all your important
All
files.
in one rule.
Absolutely critical. Installing Chrome OS Flex will completely erase your storage drive. No going back. So you need a second USB drive, an external SSD, cloud storage, whatever. Back up everything you care about first. Don't skip this unless you're intentionally wiping a blank drive.
Got it. Back up first. What else?
Second, it's highly recommended, I'd almost say essential for the best results, to update your computer's BIOS and chipset drivers before you install Chrome OS Flex.
The BIOS. Why before?
These updates are usually found on your laptop manufacturer's official support website. Updating the BIOS, that's the basic input-output system, and the chipset drivers, which control how all your hardware talks to each other, is crucial because these updates often contain vital fixes for hardware compatibility, power management, even boot security.
So they help Flex recognize the hardware properly.
Exactly. They ensure Chrome OS Flex can properly communicate with your specific components, your USB ports, Wi-Fi cards, CPU power states, all that stuff. Without the latest firmware, you might hit weird issues, maybe things won't work, maybe it won't even boot correctly.
And it's harder to update the BIOS after installing Flex.
Significantly harder, sometimes impossible, especially if the manufacturer's update tool only runs on Windows. So do it beforehand while you still have your original OS installed.
That's a really invaluable tip. Update BIOS and drivers before installing Flex.
Okay, now we also heard about a live environment option. What's that about and why is it so important? Sounds key for compatibility checks.
It's an excellent and genuinely crucial feature, especially given that hit-or-miss hardware compatibility we keep mentioning.
Right.
Before you commit to the full installation that wipes your internal drive, you can boot Chrome OS Flex directly from the USB installer you created and run it as a live system.
So it runs just off the USB stick. Exactly. It operates entirely from the USB drive without making any permanent changes to your computer's internal hard drive or SSD. It allows you to thoroughly test its compatibility with your specific hardware before you commit. You can check if fundamental things work, your webcam, your touchpad, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, sound, display output.
All the essentials.
All the essentials. This is critical because despite its broad design, universal compatibility just isn't guaranteed across the huge variety of PCs and Macs out there. This live test helps you avoid that horrible situation where you've wiped your drive only to find your Wi-Fi doesn't work, leaving you with a half-broken machine.
Yeah, that would be frustrating. So it's the ultimate try before you buy, or try before you wipe in this case.
Exactly. Try before you wipe. That's the mantra here.
Okay, so assuming that live environment test goes, well, everything seems compatible, Wi-Fi connects, touchpad works, big sigh of relief.
Yeah.
What's the actual installation process like once you decide to commit? Is it still simple, or does it get more complicated then?
Happily, yes. After booting from the USB and deciding, okay, let's do this, the actual installation process itself is remarkably simple and streamlined.
How quick are we talking?
Often just a few clicks, and typically completes in around 10 minutes, which is significantly faster than installing Windows or even many Linux distributions.
Wow, 10 minutes is fast.
It is. You'll be prompted to sign in with your Google account, connect to Wi-Fi, and then boom, you're generally up and running.
And does it sync your stuff?
Yeah, that's a neat feature, especially if you're already in the Google world. If you're already logged into Chrome on another computer, Chrome OS Flex will automatically sync your settings, your bookmarks, browser extensions, even local files stored in Google Drive. Gives you a very familiar and personalized experience right from the start, minimizing setup hassle.
That sounds incredibly user-friendly and quick.
Yeah.
But are there any hidden complexities, especially for more advanced users who might want to do something like, say, dual booting Flex with Windows, or maybe custom partitioning their drive? Or is it strictly a one-size-fits-all wipe and install approach?
Ugh, that's where a notable limitation pops up, and it can be a significant point of frustration for advanced users.
Okay, what is it?
There's a distinct absence of custom disk partitioning options in the installer. Unlike a Windows or Linux installer that lets you resize partitions, create new ones, choose where to install, Flex's installer is designed for simplicity above all else.
So no manual partitioning.
Nope. Which means if you were hoping to dual boot Chrome OS Flex alongside another OS like Windows or your favorite Linux distro, it becomes considerably more annoying and much less straightforward.
How would you even do it then?
You often end up having to install Flex first, letting it take over the entire primary drive. Then you'd have to attempt some complex, often unsupported workarounds to shrink its partition and install the other OS afterward. It's messy.
And Google doesn't officially support dual booting.
No. Officially, Google explicitly states that Chrome OS Flex cannot dual boot with other operating systems and will, in fact, erase the entire primary drive during installation.
Right.
So for anyone looking for a multi-OS setup on a single drive, this is a definite gotcha. It's a design choice that clearly prioritizes simplicity for the average user over flexibility for the power user.
Okay, that's a really important limitation to know about. So moving on to the experience after installation. We've heard repeatedly that Flex breathes new life into old hardware. But what do real-world experiences tell us about its actual performance across different types of machines? From the truly ancient ones to maybe surprisingly capable older laptops. Is it always a magic bullet?
The feedback from users is definitely quite varied. It really highlights that hit-or-miss nature of hardware compatibility, even beyond just basic functionality. It's certainly not a magic bullet for every single piece of hardware out there.
Right, that live test is key.
Absolutely. For instance, one user shared their frustration. An old Windows 7 laptop just got stuck on the Chrome OS splash screen, refused to boot further even though it met the minimum specs on paper.
Ugh, that's annoying.
And on the other end of the spectrum, a powerful modern gaming laptop, an Asus RO Zephyrus M16, well, the installer wouldn't even recognize its SSD drive. Couldn't install Flex at all.
Even on a high-end machine.
Yep. Although, interestingly, the user said the live environment on that same gaming laptop was described as super snappy, running off the USB stick on its nice 2K display. But then they had nagging Wi-Fi issues even in the live environment.
Huh. So it's really unpredictable sometimes.
Very unpredictable. While the promise is broad, the reality can be quite uneven depending on the specific hardware combination.
So it's not a universal fix for every machine, but it does seem to really shine on certain types of older yet still capable machines. Ones that aren't necessarily top-of-the-line gaming rigs.
Yeah.
Where does it seem to find its sweet spot?
Absolutely. That's where its true sweet spot often lies. A prime example people mention is the ThinkPad T450.
Yeah, those are solid older business laptops.
That's exactly. Popular, relatively budget-friendly from the mid-2010s, still decent specs. Users report that this kind of machine, which might really struggle with a fresh Windows 10 or 11 install, performs very well with basic tasks and web apps under Chrome OS Flex.
It moves responsive.
Described as buttery smooth, remarkably responsive. One user even claimed it felt snappier than a 2020 Windows machine now. That was on a 2012 laptop, but they had upgraded the RAM. Still, impressive.
Wow.
It's frequently described as damn fast on moderately powerful older machines, particularly for those common activities. Web browsing, streaming media using Google Workspace apps. It really demonstrates its ability to genuinely transform the user experience on hardware that might otherwise be considered totally obsolete.
And it does that mainly by shedding all that background overhead from Windows.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Shedding the overhead that bogs down traditional OCs, things like constant background indexing, aggressive telemetry collection, myriad the system services running all the time. Flex just doesn't have most of that.
Okay, so once it's installed and running smoothly on a compatible machine, what's the daily experience like? Is it truly just a glorified web browser, as some critics say? Or is there more to it for the average user day to day?
For many users, yeah, it's primarily a web browser-centric experience, and that's very much by design. The whole OS is fundamentally built around web applications and the Google Chrome browser.
Which is great if that's all you need.
Exactly. It's fantastic if your computing needs align perfectly with using services like Google Workspace Docs, Sheets, Slides, Gmail, or the Microsoft 365 web apps, or that growing number of progressive web applications, PWAs.
GWAs are getting better all the time.
They really are. They're becoming increasingly sophisticated, they're lightweight, they launch quickly, and they offer a surprisingly rich user experience for many common tasks, often blurring the line between a traditional desktop app and just a web page. For someone whose digital life is predominantly online, this simplicity is incredibly liberating.
And what about those common features we often take for granted, like printing a document or connecting external stuff, a mouse, a headset, an external webcam? Do you have to mess around with drivers and complex installations like you sometimes do on Windows? Or is it simpler there too?
It's designed for simplicity there too, aiming for that it just works philosophy,
Feel
mostly.
like,
Well, for common peripherals, users often report they don't have to mess around with installing drivers for most standard stuff. Printers, external mice, keyboards, webcams, basic USB devices. They're generally recognized and ready to use as soon as you plug them in, much like on a traditional Chromebook.
plug and play.
Exactly. That plug-and-play capability contributes significantly to its low-maintenance appeal, especially for less technical users who might be intimidated by driver hunting or troubleshooting hardware. For standard peripherals, it largely just works out of the box, reinforcing that user-friendly nature. Where it gets tricky is more obscure or specialized hardware.
Right. Okay, so for someone with multiple devices in their digital life, maybe they have an Android phone, a Windows desktop for gaming, maybe another Chromebook, how well does Chrome OS Flex integrate into that broader ecosystem? Does it play nicely with others, or does it kind of try to pull you exclusively into the Google world,
Well, one of its most significant strengths, especially if you're already embedded in Google's ecosystem, is that seamless integration across devices.
like with an Android phone?
Yeah, if you have an Android phone, for instance, your Chrome OS Flex device integrates very nicely. There's a certain familiarity, as Chrome OS often feels a bit like a blown-up version of Android on a bigger screen anyway,
Hmm.
but it's more than just looks. That cloud-based nature means your settings, your active browser tabs, recent files, many apps are synchronized across your
I
devices.
have the permanently cloned laptops
Yeah.
idea again.
Exactly. It significantly enhances productivity. Your work environment feels consistent whether you're on your Flex laptop or even checking something quickly on your Android phone. Things like copying text on your phone and pasting it directly onto your Flex laptop.
On-hub features.
Exactly. The phone hub features often work quite well, or maybe getting notifications from your phone on your laptop. It creates a tighter bond between those devices.
So it really does seem designed to maximize the experience for those who fully embraced the Google way of computing, making the most of their existing Google accounts and services. Sounds like a fantastic expansion of that world for them.
Indeed. The experience is truly optimal for those already deeply tied, or as some might joke, trapped into the Google suite. Using Drive extensively for storage, calendar, contacts, sheets, photos, all of it. These services aren't just compatible, they are deeply embedded and perform exceptionally well. It feels like a natural, intuitive extension of your existing digital habits. The more you lean into Google services, the more seamless and powerful the Flex experience becomes. That's where its design truly shines.
Okay, we've talked a lot about what Chrome OS Flex can do, and it sounds pretty compelling for certain use cases, especially that hardware revival aspect.
Mhm.
But here's where it gets really interesting, I think, where the practical realities might bite. What are its key limitations? What can it not do that a traditional OS might, especially around software compatibility?
This is arguably the biggest hurdle for many potential users, and it's absolutely critical to understand this before committing. Unlike official Chromebooks, the ones manufactured with Google's specific hardware requirements, security chips, all that.
Right, the ones you buy as Chromebooks.
Exactly. Chrome OS Flex devices installed on existing hardware do not support Android apps from the Google Play Store.
No Android apps at all. That's huge.
It's a massive difference. It means you miss out on that vast ecosystem of mobile applications that could otherwise extend functionality significantly. Think about advanced Google Photos features, or maybe Adobe Lightroom Mobile,
Things you can get on a regular Chromebook.
things you can get on many official Chromebooks via the Play Store, yes. They are simply not accessible on Chrome OS Flex. And this isn't just, a software switch Google could flip easily.
What?
It's a fundamental architectural difference. Official Chromebooks include a dedicated container system, often called ARC++S, and they frequently require specific hardware, including a security chip like a TPM or Google's H1 chip, to run Android apps securely and efficiently.
Okay.
Flex, designed to run on this huge variety of existing, often older hardware, simply cannot guarantee the presence of those specific hardware components or the same level of security isolation needed for the Play Store integration. So, no Android apps.
Wow. Okay. So if you can't run Android apps, you're strictly limited to web apps and potentially Linux apps as workarounds, right?
Yeah.
You definitely can't just install a standard Windows program like a .exe file. That's a massive restriction for some folks.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. No running .exe files or similar Windows or macOS executables directly, period.
Hmm.
So if you rely on specific Windows-only or macOS-only software for your work, for creative tasks like heavy video editing or graphic design, or for serious PC gaming, Chrome OS Flex is simply not a direct replacement.
Right?
And while web apps are getting better, as we said, offering alternatives for basic photo editing, word processing, even some coding, they often lack the advanced features, the deep offline capabilities, or the specialized functions found in full desktop applications.
Like Microsoft Office.
Exactly. The Microsoft 365 web apps are good, but they are missing many features compared to the full desktop Office suite. Even popular communication apps like Discord, its web version, lacks features like system-wide push-to-talk, which can be a daily annoyance for gamers or streamers.
Yeah, little things that add up.
They do. So while the web ecosystem is vast, it doesn't always offer a perfect like-for-like replacement for every traditional desktop application need.
Okay. Now, many power users, especially those familiar with Linux, might hear no Android apps and think, okay, fine, I'll just run Linux apps then. That'll solve my software needs for things like GIMP or maybe a more powerful code editor or a different browser. Is that a viable workaround? Or does that come with its own set of challenges?
Chrome OS Flex does offer the ability to enable a Linux development environment, often called crustini. And theoretically, yes, this opens up access to a wide range of Linux applications installable via the command line, typically using apt.
So you can install stuff from Debian repositories.
Generally, yes, it runs a Debian container underneath. However, the reality is that compatibility can be quite, well, the word users often use is haphazard.
Haphazard.
Yeah.
How so?
While some popular apps like GIMP, the open source image editor, might work reasonably well, maybe with only minor menu bugs or occasional visual glitches, others have been reported as much more problematic.
Like what?
Kdenlive, for example, a pretty comprehensive open source video editor, users have described trying to install it via apt as a nightmare, citing flickering issues, instability, or it's simply not working at all unless they hunt down and use an app image version instead.
Appage. That's like a self-contained package.
Right. It bundles dependencies, sometimes bypassing system library issues. But the point is, the standard installation doesn't always work smoothly. It highlights the inconsistency. You might find a Linux app that works perfectly, or one that barely functions, or one that doesn't launch at all. It's not guaranteed.
Okay, so compatibility is iffy. What about performance for those Linux apps that do work? Do they run at native speed, or is there a penalty for running them inside Chrome OS Flex? Because for demanding apps, that difference could be critical.
That's another really important consideration, and it directly impacts their viability for power users. The Linux applications run within a virtual machine, a sandbox container environment on Chrome OS Flex.
Right, not directly on the hardware.
Exactly. This virtualization layer introduces a certain amount of overhead. Resources have to be shared and translated between the host OS, Flex, and the Linux guest container. This inherently incurs a performance penalty.
How much of a penalty?
It varies, but they typically won't run as fast or as efficiently as they would on a native Linux distribution installed directly on the same hardware. For high-performance tasks, serious graphic design, intense gaming, professional video editing, even with Linux apps as an option, Chrome OS Flex is often deemed, technically possible, but good luck.
Huh. Not exactly confidence-inspiring.
No. And for gaming specifically, experiences are generally reported as quite poor. One user mentioned Steam games like Splitgate showing a dismal 1 FPS.
1 frame per second? Ouch.
Yeah. And CSGO, a very popular competitive shooter, apparently wouldn't even load at all. So while the option to run Linux apps is there, it's definitely not a panacea for demanding software needs and often comes with significant performance compromises. Don't expect it to turn your old laptop into a Linux powerhouse.
Okay, that's very clear.
Uh-huh.
Linux support is a bonus, but maybe not a primary reason to switch if you have demanding needs. Now, we touched on this earlier with the live test, but it seems hardware compatibility, even beyond just performance, can be a real sticking point.
Yeah.
What specific issues do people face, and why is it so difficult to predict what will and won't work perfectly?
Yeah. Despite being designed for a wide range of devices, Flex doesn't guarantee everything will work perfectly, even if the machine boots up okay, while many non-certified models might, surprisingly, function flawlessly.
Which is great when it happens.
It is, but others can have critical components fail entirely, making the whole experience frustrating or unusable. Users have reported significant issues, like Wi-Fi drivers just not working on specific gaming laptops or even some mini PCs.
which is a deal breaker for a cloud OS.
Total deal breaker. Other common features found in laptops, like fingerprint readers for login,
Yeah, those are convenient.
or specific touchpads with advanced multi-touch gestures, or even the auto-rotate functionality on convertible 2-in-1 laptops have all been reported to fail sometimes.
And you can't just install a driver like on Windows.
Generally, no. That's the core problem. Chrome OS Flex uses a more locked-down integrated driver model. You can't just fix it with a driver install in most cases. If a component isn't innately supported by the kernel and drivers included with Chrome OS Flex itself, it may simply never work.
Leaving you stuck with a partially functional device.
Exactly. And the difficulty in predicting this stems from the sheer mind-boggling variety of proprietary drivers and chipsets used by PC manufacturers over the years. Google simply can't provide or test universal open-source drivers for every single component ever made.
Right. Too many variables.
Way too many variables.
So that try before you install approach with the live USB environment is genuinely critical here, maybe more so than with almost any other operating system. It's not just a recommendation, it's basically a necessity if you want to avoid headaches.
Absolutely. It cannot be overstated. The official certified models list from Google. It's a good starting point, gives you some confidence if your device is on it.
But many devices aren't on the list.
Exactly. So even if your device is on the list, or more commonly if it isn't, running that live USB test is not just recommended, it's essential for your specific machine. It's the only hands-on way to confirm basic functionality of your crucial components, Wi-Fi, input devices, sound, camera, before you wipe your existing OS.
It's the only reliable way to know for sure.
It's the only reliable way to assess compatibility for your unique machine and avoid potential frustration, or worse, ending up with a less functional computer than you started with. It saves immense headaches down the line. Do the live test.
Okay, message received loud and clear. Now, shifting gears a bit, Chrome, the browser, has a well-known reputation when it comes to data and privacy. When you build an entire operating system around it, deeply integrating Google services, privacy becomes an even bigger question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How should listeners think about data collection with Chrome OS Flex, especially if they're maybe moving from Windows, citing privacy concerns there?
This is a really important and often complex question for users considering the switch, especially, as you say, for those motivated by privacy concerns with their current OS.
Right.
Chrome, the browser, is widely known for its extensive data collection practices. This is partly to personalize user experience, improve services, but also, let's be honest, to serve targeted advertising.
That's Google's main business model.
It is. So extending that to your entire operating system with Chrome OS Flex means a significant amount of data could potentially be collected by Google across virtually all your computing activities.
So switching from Windows doesn't necessarily mean less data collection, just different collection.
That's a good way to put it. While it's true some users migrate from Windows due to concerns about Microsoft's telemetry, data collection practices, or features like Copilot, it's crucial to recognize that switching to Chrome OS Flex means stepping deeper into Google's specific data ecosystem. It's not really an escape from data collection, but rather a shift in the primary collector and potentially a consolidation of your digital footprint with one major tech company.
What kind of data are we talking about?
Data related to your browsing habits, obviously, application usage patterns, your location if you enable location services, maybe even voice interactions if you use Google Assistant features. This data helps Google power their search, advertising, and AI initiatives.
So it's different from, say, Windows diagnostic data.
It overlaps, but the depth of integration with Google's cloud services, Drive, Photos, Calendar, etc., means a more cohesive and potentially more extensive user profile can be built compared to just OS-level telemetry.
So it's less about eliminating data collection entirely and more about a trade-off then. You gain the simplicity, the performance, that deep Google Cloud integration, but you accept an increased reliance on Google's data practices. That's a critical consideration.
Precisely. It's about understanding that convenience and that streamlined cloud-first experience often come hand in hand with a particular privacy model.
Are there any controls? Can you opt out?
You are generally given options to opt out of some specific data collection during the initial setup process, things like usage statistics and crash reports. But the core nature of a Google-centric OS means a certain level of data interaction and reliance on Google services is inherent. It's fundamental to how it functions and delivers its benefits.
So be informed.
Exactly. Users should be informed, actively review Google's privacy policies for Chrome OS and Chrome OS Flex, and weigh this aspect carefully against their personal privacy preferences and comfort levels. It's about making an informed choice, not assuming zero data collection.
Right. Okay, so after digging into the tech, the experience, the limitations, the privacy,
Yeah.
let's pull it all together. Who is Chrome OS Flex truly for? Who's going to get the most out of it, and in what specific scenarios does it really shine as the ideal solution?
The ideal user for Chrome OS Flex is definitely someone whose primary computer usage revolves almost entirely around web browsing and web applications.
The web-centric user.
Exactly. Especially those who are already deeply integrated into the Google ecosystem. If your work or personal life predominantly uses Google Workspace Docs, Sheets, Slides, Gmail, Calendar, and you rely heavily on cloud storage, social media, streaming, other web utilities, then Flex will feel incredibly intuitive, seamless, and remarkably performant, even on that older hardware.
It fits their workflow perfectly.
Perfectly. It's for the user who fundamentally views their computer as a portal to the internet, rather than needing a powerful local workstation for heavy-duty software.
And it also seems perfectly suited for specific demographics or situations where simplicity, low maintenance, and security are maybe the absolute top priorities. Almost like providing, I don't know, digital training wheels.
Yes, absolutely. It's an excellent option, for example, for a less tech-inclined individuals, grandparents, older relatives.
Right.
It's low maintenance, those automatic background updates, the straightforward interface.
Yeah.
It means they don't have to grapple with complex system settings, disruptive updates, or the confusing world of drivers and software installs. It makes their computing experience stress-free, reliable, and secure.
Makes sense. Who else?
It's also fantastic as a first laptop for children.
Oh, okay. Well,
It provides a safe and controlled introduction to the internet. It offers robust parental controls through Google Family Link. You can block explicit content, prevent kids from using private browsing modes, manage a custom list of blocked and allowed websites. It really does provide those vital training wheels for their first internet experience in a secure environment.
that's a great use case. Any others?
Yeah. Additionally, it's a great choice for, say, a lightweight, maybe even slightly disposable travel laptop.
Disposable.
Well, something you wouldn't be devastated about if it got lost, stolen, or damaged compared to your main expensive machine, because it's running on older, cheaper hardware. Or it's great as a dedicated guest computer where minimal functionality and strong security are the main goals.
Okay, those all make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But what about people who do need more than just web browsing and basic stuff? When should they definitely consider alternatives, and what are those alternatives if Chrome OS Flex just isn't the right solution for them?
Right. If your computing needs extend beyond that web-centric model, if you're into professional graphic design, intense gaming, serious video editing, or if you rely on specific, powerful desktop-only applications that just don't have good web or Linux alternatives, then Chrome OS Flex is very likely not the best fit for you.
You'll hit limitations pretty quickly.
Very quickly. Its fundamental limitations, no Android apps, inconsistent Linux app performance, lack of full driver control make it unsuitable for power users, content creators, or anyone needing specialized software with advanced features. You'd quickly hit a wall with its capabilities for those kinds of demanding workloads. It would lead to frustration, not productivity.
Okay. So if Flex isn't the answer for these users, but they still want to repurpose old hardware or maybe just want a cleaner, more flexible OS experience, what are the other viable options? Because the goal here is still trying to extend the life of these machines if possible.
For users seeking more comprehensive software compatibility and greater control over their system, especially if the hardware is moderately good, maybe not ancient, but just struggling with modern Windows, then a lightweight Linux distribution is often highly recommended.
Like which ones?
Popular choices include Linux Mint, particularly the XFCE or Mate versions, which are lighter, or maybe MX Linux. These distributions offer a full desktop experience, much broader software support through their package managers, and significantly more control over the underlying system.
But they're still lighter than Windows.
Generally, yes. They're considerably lighter and often more efficient than a full Windows 10 or 11 installation, especially on older hardware. They really bridge that gap between simple web usage and full desktop productivity. They provide access to a vast open-source software ecosystem and the flexibility to install almost any Linux application you need, often with better native performance than running Linux apps inside Flex's container.
So a lightweight Linux distro is a strong alternative for more demanding users. Any other options besides installing a different OS?
Yeah, a couple of other honorable mentions. If the hardware is still functional, but maybe you just don't need it, consider donating old laptops to nonprofits. Organizations like PCs for People, for example, refurbish and distribute low-cost computers and help provide broadband access to low-income individuals and families. That gives a device a truly meaningful second life and helps bridge the digital divide.
That's a fantastic option.
It really is. Or if the device is genuinely beyond repair, like a cracked screen, dead motherboard, completely non-functional, then opting for proper computer recycling facilities is crucial. Don't just trash it.
Right. But reuse is better than recycle, if possible.
Exactly. While recycling is good, extending a device's life by repurposing it, whether with Flex or a lightweight Linux distro, is always the preferred option environmentally and socially. Giving it a second life is always better than just breaking it down for materials if you can.
Okay. So we've covered a ton of ground today on Chrome OS Flex. It seems clear it really does have the power to breathe new life into aging machines, offering that clean, fast, secure, cloud-based experience, but mainly for users who fit its specific mold, right? Those with a very web-centric workflow.
Indeed. It truly excels for those web-centric users, people deeply embedded in the Google ecosystem, and perhaps most notably, for giving old devices that second, often surprisingly spry, life. But as we've dug into, its inherent limitations in software, especially the lack of Android apps, combined with that hit-or-miss hardware support. It means it's definitely not a universal solution for every person or every computing need. It's about making an informed decision based on your specific requirements.
Ultimately, it really does sound like it's all about matching the tool to the task, doesn't it? Knowing what your needs are and figuring out if Flex is the right fit. It's not really a compromise if it perfectly aligns with how you actually use a computer.
Precisely. If your computing needs can comfortably be met within its cloud-based paradigm, meaning you primarily use web browsers, web apps, you're comfortable with Google's ecosystem, then Chrome OS Flex offers immense value.
Value beyond just being free.
Exactly. Value not just in significant cost savings by avoiding new hardware purchases, but also in making a positive environmental impact by extending device lifespans. Its ability to transform that useless old laptop gathering dust into something functional and productive again, something that brings genuine utility back into your life. That is a profoundly compelling argument for adopting it, but only in the right circumstances. It fundamentally redefines the potential life cycle of personal computers for a pretty substantial user base.
So for you, the listener, thinking about this, the ultimate question isn't just, is Chrome OS Flex good? But maybe, is it good for me?
Right. Consider your daily computing habits, honestly. How much of your time is genuinely spent inside a web browser engaging with cloud services and web applications? And how much truly relies on specific, powerful desktop software or local applications that just don't have a viable web or Linux alternative that works well enough for you?
It's a self-assessment.
It is. And in a world that's increasingly moving towards cloud services, towards subscription-based web applications, Chrome OS Flex represents a significant, maybe even forward-looking shift in how we might view and utilize our personal computers. It really challenges us to consider if our powerful, expensive machines are truly being used to their full potential most of the time. Or if, maybe, a lighter, more focused, cloud-first approach might actually be more efficient, more secure, and ultimately more aligned with our actual needs for the vast majority of our daily digital interactions. It's a fascinating reevaluation of our digital lives, isn't it?
It really is. A lot to think about there. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive today. We really hope this exploration of Chrome OS Flex helps you make an informed decision for your own tech journey, whether it's for an old machine or just considering different ways of computing.
Always a pleasure.
See you in the next episode of this Tech Podcast.